Hey guys, Dan here from Dan's Millionaire Code podcast. Today I have Grand Master Jedi Josh Zieglowsky, and he's done some crazy, incredible stuff. So I'm going to ask some questions about some of the challenges he's had and some of the things that maybe he can teach you so that you can scale your empire. Dude, welcome, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Man, dude, so excited. I've been trying to get you on for a while here.
Yeah.
And you're like cliche, serial entrepreneur. Right, like a lot of really cool projects, but your big mainstay is real estate. That got you into it, right?
Yeah.
With that, and you're working on a few different projects. I think we can talk about as well. And one of your recent really huge claim to fame was you're one of the founders of ERC Specialists, which was massive, right? Just crazy, massive velocity. And then you have a new thing to help people that are small business owners as well. So maybe take us back to how'd you learn all this entrepreneurship? Were you raised an entrepreneur? Did you have a silver spoon? Were you broke? Where did you start from? How'd you get into it?
It's a good question. So mom, IRS employee for 30 years. Dad he was one of the first 50 employees for FedEx, actually. He received a pension years later, but then he worked for other companies. He became a truck driver kind of when I was in high school, and then did that out in the oil business for a long time. We partnered up a couple different times in that, but for the most part, I just kind of saw kind of asking questions. I used to tell people all the time, no question's a dumb question or stupid question, because I just feel like that's how I progress myself, right? Mm-hmm. And did the traditional I'm going to go to college. I had a college basketball scholarship, and I got home and I had 3 jobs, and I remember being at Sears selling fitness equipment.
No way.
And they were paying me base salary plus commission. But then the guys upstairs were selling appliance electronics. And, they were making a lot of money, but it was straight commission. So it was a lot of risk there, right? That's the way I felt. Mm-hmm. And I asked a couple times if I could move positions up there, and they didn't have a spot. And all of a sudden they had a spot, and they were interviewing for it, and I got the job.
Nice.
And I could tell that was my MO. That was my direction. And so I ended up being one of the top sales guys in that department over about a year period. And then through 9/11, I was let go, even being the top sales guy, because I hadn't been there for a long time, and they kept the people that were there for 20 years, 25 years, all that stuff. But I immediately saw that I want to get paid for what I'm worth, not when someone else is telling me what I'm worth.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and then I just kind of propelled myself into mortgages, got into mortgages for 3-4 years. Had a couple partners in that. We ended up being one of the biggest providers or producers for Countrywide before Countrywide was bought by Bank of America. And then when I was in mortgages, I heard about this real estate stuff, and I saw realtors driving nice cars. So I just assumed they make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when they're driving nice cars, they're not making a lot of money. They're having the show. But I was like, I want to be some in real estate. And then someone asked me, do you want to be my partner? Because I could bring a guest to a class here in downtown Salt Lake with a guy named Jeff Rappaport. And he was my very first mentor, and I was 23 at the time.
Wow.
And that's how I got started.
That's crazy. Well, for real estate, friend of ours, Jeff Flam, he's been on.
Yeah.
He was a techie guy, and he started talking to me about, hey, dude, he was 19 years old. He's like, you need to get into real estate, bro. How do I do it? And he's like, oh, it's easy. And he just gave me the math. And I remember the first lesson he taught was cap rates, because you got to really understand this cap rates and your net operating income.
He told you that at 19?
Yeah. He's like, wow. Dude, he's like, that's the first concept.
Cap rates 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, that's your return, dude. He's like, just understand that. And if you buy within those mathematics, and the second thing he taught me is, don't be afraid to make a lot of offers, even if they sound ridiculous, because people do ridiculous things for ridiculous circumstance, So tell me about your biggest real estate win, and how'd you find that? Because there's a lot of people here in the real estate industry that are watching this too.
I mean, there's several. I would say back when I'll kind of give maybe 2, maybe 3 real quick ones. One, when I was 23, I then did it with a partner. It took me about 9 months to close my very first deal. Everyone remembers their first in whatever category we're talking about, first kiss, But my first deal I ended up making $33,000 on. It was 9 months after I went to my first class. So I always tell people, because I invested in mentorship, which I I promote all the time. Like, you definitely want to have some sort of mentor, a coach. And then 9 months later, I made $33,000.
Wow.
That was more than I made the year before, as a commission sales guy. So I knew that was definitely a direction I wanted to go in real estate, and then it's propelled me to different areas. But just recently, I became business partners with my mentor, a second mentor, in commercial real estate. His name's Scott Scheel. And we ended up buying a property that was valued between 55, 60 million in Ohio, A-class, 283,000 square feet in December for 2.5 million from a REIT. And I mean, you can do the math. That's going to be a pretty big deal once we sell it, So we're doing some stuff right now. So we're not officially sold it yet, haven't put money in our pockets, but we have a good spread to make.
To be good, huh?
But in my commercial side of things, one of my biggest deals was probably my second deal, actually my third deal, where I got into triple net leasing piece. And we don't need to go too much over what that is, but I did apartment. I had a couple apartments. I did a couple things, but I got into my first retail center with, it's got Napa Auto Parts. It's got like an Ivy Tech college, which is in Utah. It's very similar, like a Stevens Henniger College.
All right.
And no money, because I didn't have money to put towards the deal. And so I had to present this to my limited partners, my investors, like, hey, I don't have money to put in this deal, but the numbers add up. Kind of like when you talked about, if you understand your numbers, all that stuff, that's really what commercial's about. And I was able to do that. I ended up raising the money. And today, that my value and my ownership is worth $800,000. All my investors are extremely happy with it because they're making, I've made for about 6 years, about $35,000 of residual income a year just on that one property. Mm-hmm. But I always loved that property because that helped me propel me to see more opportunity, with what I could do, not only for myself, for my kids, because they're not making more dirt. Real estate's been around for a long time, and it will continue to be around a long time. Now it's just learning and teaching, and getting different coaches to learn different aspects of it.
You know what I found recently? I'm wondering if this applies to you. It seems like a lot of the guys with a lot of wealth in real estate in different sectors, they're approaching 60 years old, 70 years old, and they don't have quite the energy of guys our age and even younger. And so a lot of times they just want someone who can execute and has the energy to find it, do it, meet the people, present it. And they're willing to share a lot of it because they have enough money. They want to leave legacy and teach. Like, we keep talking about mentors.
For sure.
So how did you find some of these mentors? It sounds like you've partnered up with mentors. How did you find these mentors? And a lot of people ask me, how do you find mentors? So I'd like to hear your strategy to doing that.
It's a good question. I won't say any names because I want what I thought would be a mentor at the time that I invested in that didn't work out, because I don't want to badmouth anybody. But I think it's kind of like you got to vet them a little bit. In my case, I actually invested in them to teach me, and then you kind of saw it took a while. They sounded really good up front, but 4 to 6 months later, it didn't work out.
Oh,
it's almost like an investment because I always say when you don't pay for mentorship, you don't buy it, you invest in it, mm-hmm. right? And so I look at it like it was an investment that didn't work out, right? And so I think if we go into anything investing that it's always going to be roses and we're always going to make money, you're wrong. Mm-hmm. But now it's minimizing that risk, minimizing your losses. Because you are going to have losses, but how can you minimize that? And that's the way, I think, by at least taking action and doing as much research as you can, asking. I probably should have asked existing students what successes they've seen, because he showed 1 or 2 out of 500 students, but I kind of went based on that, and people can have success if they get a little push and take action. But they dedicate their taking action from this guy, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually learned from my mistakes or my shortfalls. So I actually tell people although it was an investment that didn't work out, it actually got me in the game, because he was actually my very first mentor in commercial real estate. My second one is my current one. Mm-hmm. So if I didn't take that risk and get my feet wet, I don't know if I would even be in the business. I'd probably still do residential. So I always say, what can I learn from this, right? I coach basketball. I always say we win or we learn. And I look at that, I don't want to say I lost, I learned from it. What did I learn from that? Does that make sense?
That's big.
So I use that with my kids. As I say, we win or we learn. And even though it's an L in that column, how can we learn to make it a W the next time?
I found something weird just in the last decade about finding great mentors. And one thing, I finally connected the dots. All the great mentors I had, I've actually never done a business deal with, like the greatest ones, you know?
Interesting.
And the reason is most of them were to the point where they had so much money, they were purely like 90% philanthropy. We speak about Jeff. Jeff doesn't need more money.
Right.
He just likes to help people, and he doesn't do his mastermind stuff really for money. It's, I guess, a token to show, okay, I'm showing up. But he truly just wants to help people and see that success replicated. And my secret has been like asking, okay, well, what are you working on? What problems do you have? And some of them will say, well, I'm terrible at social media. I'm terrible at networking now because I just kind of stay in my own little thing. Or I want to learn for us, it's blockchain, cryptocurrency. Can you teach me some classes on this? So it's almost like a coaching exchange.
Yeah.
And what I found like with real estate and how I got decent at it is, again, we talk about Jeff, but a lot of these mentors that were good at it, they just frame it out, send me some spreadsheets on how to analyze properties, introducing me to good brokers in retail, industrial, and say, Dan's good. Use him. He's real. And it kind of fell into it that way. And so like a lot of things I try to say is like, okay, well, let's say you wanted Josh to mentor me. In our social media and different things, we talk about things we're working on that mean something to us. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because like mentoring my daughter has been a big thing. She's 23 and I'm like, hey. So a lot of people are like, do you do private coaching? I'm like, yeah, it's $50,000 an hour. Sure. I charge. And they're like, wow, it's out of my pay class. But my daughter was like, I posted, she just started her Etsy store, buy something there and screenshot me a receipt, and I'll send one of you guys a prize. So I sent that person a huge amount of crypto, more than the value of what they were buying. But the people that stepped forward to that, I actually picked out like 4 dudes and gave them free mentoring. Because I'm like, they're willing to actually listen to someone's problems, because everyone's got problems. We got problems.
Yeah.
Things we want to work on, right? And it's so weird that sometimes it feels like the opportunity is in front of us and people are telling you what they need, but it's almost like a new salesperson just not listening to really what their problems are. Right?
Yeah. I mean, to the point of like Jeff Lamb, for instance, you know, and I know you've done this with me, is when I first started getting around and being around people that would ask me like, how can I help? What do you need with your business? There was, when you're not used to that, you kind of like think, why is this a little skeptical for me? What does he or she want, right? But then I saw the genuine piece of it. Really, they are there, and you're there to help, because you've asked me those couple of questions too. But then there's also the flip side. Is there's a lot of times people are asking, how can I help you? And you always feel like, why don't I really just tell them? Or
No.
you know, I don't want to ask for that help. But I think if it's kind of like the who, not how. Is I know my abilities, I know my inabilities. So I'm always telling people like, well, I'll just tell you this. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. Is there anything that I'm not good at that we can possibly, I would say, compare notes. Compare notes on what you're good at, I'm good at, or vice versa. Maybe there's something I can turn around and help you on what I'm really good at and you're not so good at, your inability, right?
Use the compare notes, guys. Don't ever ask someone you want to mentor you to pick their brain, because that's like a peeve.
Or
because then they're just, well, what can I take from you?
Yeah.
Instead of, can we exchange notes, compare notes? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that one down. Compare notes. That's a great one, actually. So the thing, that really impressed me about you, this is kind of crazy. I don't mind talking about your one car. Can I talk about your one car?
Sure.
So we have this event called Cars and Coins. Some of you guys have went. And we like to grab a bunch of entrepreneurs and some people that are just thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, and we can educate them on blockchain just so that they don't get run over or ripped off, right? And so he's like, oh, I don't have any exotic sports cars, but I got like an SUV thing or whatever.
Well, because you guys all have like Lambos, Ferraris.
Yeah, but he shows up in this Cullinan Rolls Royce, dude, which is actually probably more and cooler than most of our sports cars.
There's a story to it, though.
Yeah, what is it? I want to hear it.
Yeah, so it's funny because so about 4 years ago, I'm a big person that watches The Men That Built America, The Food That Built America. It's called That Built series. So I'll tell everyone that's listening, if you look up on Hulu, That Built series, and you watch the series, there's so many out there. It started with the men that built America. You learn about Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and these are awesome stories that you should even have your kids listen and watch. I actually rewatch them. I've done it for now 7 years, every Christmas break, holiday break. I spend those 2 weeks. My birthday's over that time frame too. So I literally just sit down, and it motivates me for my goals coming in the next year. Well, anyways, I was watching the cars that built the world. And you learn that Benz was the very first person that, started the car in like 1884 or something like that. And then Daimler came in about 4 or 5 years later, both in Germany. And then Daimler is always trying to buy Benz. This is a quick story, then I'll talk about Rolls-Royce. And Daimler's always trying to buy him. And then finally, 30 years later, he's retiring. He goes, okay, I'll let you buy it, but you got to name the division after my daughter Mercedes, and that's where Mercedes-Benz came into place, and Daimler took him over, right? So as the next episode's coming up, it talks about this guy Charles Rolls, and what Charles was is he had the rights in the UK to sell Benz cars, okay? And back then, before everyone always thinks Ford, Henry Ford started the first car. He started the first car in the teens and the 20s in the 1900s. For the modern person, for the average person to have a car, right? Well, back those 30 years prior to that, you had to be pretty rich to buy cars. So Charles Rolls, his Rolodex was all rich people. So he's calling them, like asking them if they want a new car. Then all of a sudden people started saying, well, I'm going to buy a Royce car. I'm going to buy a Royce car. And he was like, what's a Royce car? So he meets with, I think the guy's name's Frank Royce. So anyways, he meets with Frank Royce, let's just call it Frank Royce, for lunch. And then he goes, hey, so I love what you're doing. I've actually driven your cars now, and you make a solid car. But I got to ask you, how do you sell your cars? He goes, I don't sell them. I just build them, and people buy them. And he goes, well, hey, I have a big Rolodex, basically. I could sell your cars, and you build them. And we'll call the company Rolls-Royce.
No way.
And anyways, they agreed. They shook hands, and they became partners. And what's funny about Charles, so I related to that because, like I always tell people, I can't change my own oil, but I can sell, right? When that happened, I put that on my vision board. I text another mentor, a business mentor of mine named Mark Evans, and because I knew I just saw a Rolls-Royce like 6 months prior to this. And I said, hey, don't you have a Rolls-Royce? And he texted me back, he goes, actually, I have two. And I put on my vision board, and it's funny because when I was going to buy the Rolls-Royce finally, 4 years later, the guy was like, hey, dude, those are hard to find, the Cullinans, because I wanted an SUV. He goes, I got a Bentley that's here that we can certainly just get you in. I'm like, it's not that. Like, he goes, have you ever driven one? I'm like, no, it's the goal. It's what I put on my vision board. So it's got to be a Rolls Royce, and that was the whole reason why I bought it.
Wow. That thing is awesome, man. It's like a couch, man. It's very
nice.
comfy.
Yeah.
All right. So the thing I think that was most impressive when I met you is this ERC Specialist project that you did. Just to give you guys an idea, size up like what you can talk about revenue-wise. How big was that project, and how did it play out?
Yeah. So there's certain things I can say and can't say. But so what I'll say, quick story is, back when I was doing oil, trucking with my dad, we were trying to find extra money for the oil business, PPP money, all that stuff. And I came upon this, and from which is my partner today, he told me about it. He was just selling it for another company. And I was like, wait, what is this? And I reached out to my CPA. He's like, no, this is a payroll credit. So I reached out to a payroll company. They basically told me, like, sorry, we don't amend. This is we just do active returns. You'll have to just do this on your own or get a third-party service. And I was like, well, maybe we can kind of figure this out. So I reached out to one of my partners, co-founders. I mean, there's probably 6, 7 of us as far as co-founders. But at the very beginning, I reached out to him. I said, hey, do you think we should do this together? Because he's really good at IT and sales. It's almost like a hybrid mind that he has. And we started looking at it. We're like, yeah, let's do this. And anyways, we even talked about like, man, if we could get like 1,000 or 10,000 companies, that would be awesome when this is all over. Well, we end up getting close to 70,000 companies. And we ended up being the largest company in the country that helped people with this ERC business. And
it was like billions, right?
Yeah,
big.
Yeah, it was
Big.
It was over. We ended up getting over $10 billion in credit.
That's
so
crazy.
It was And we take great pride in helping all business owners. And I say that because we did have competitors that they wouldn't work with companies lower than 5 employees or 10. And we said, hey, we don't want to prejudge. We want to seriously make this almost like a crusade of helping as many business owners and businesses as we can in this. And it's still going. It's just there's a moratorium right now.
So that window now is smaller.
Yeah.
But now you have new stuff.
Yeah.
So you have this website, selfemployedcredits.com.
Selfemployedcredits.com.
I've been hearing about this and reading in the on the news and stuff like that. How does that work and what is it?
Yeah, so ERC was if you had W-2 employees. And we had a lot of people. It's like, oh, crap, I was 1099 or I was self-employed or I'm a sole proprietor. I don't qualify. And so we actually kept that database. And then, about a year and a half goes by after starting ERC. And then this other program pops up, and it's about for people that were self-employed during the pandemic. And there's ways to qualify, and they can go to our website. And because I always tell people, don't pre-qualify yourself, because there's always like, well, what is this? What about this? What about this? And when they go through the questionnaire, because we don't know everyone's specific business and how much money they made and how much money they didn't make, if they were ever shut down or what state they're in.
What's the implications if they do qualify? They dot all the I's, cross the T's, and they qualify for the rules and all that.
Yeah.
What kind of W-2 guy get out of that?
So a self-employed person can get up to $32,200 for their business.
So that'd be like guy who's a plumber or whatever.
Sole proprietor plumber, right? That doesn't have W-2 employees or didn't get a ERC money, didn't apply for it. He or she has a chance to apply for this, and this is money that they don't have to pay back to the government.
So it's not a loan.
It's not a loan. It's they can use it for whatever they want in their business too. So they don't have to specify like PPP you did.
Is this money all pre-printed by the government? They printed a lot of money for different things.
They do.
So this is allocated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it's allocated. It's going for it's a shorter window than ERC. So it's got another about a year and a half legs on it. It goes by quarters. And the longer people take to apply for it, the less money they'll get. So it kind of decreases over time. So right now it's at $32,200, and then the next quarter it's going to be about $24,000, and then $20,000, and then $16,000, and So obviously people want to go and apply for it as soon as possible.
That's cool. All right, man. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit into maybe just a couple tips for young entrepreneurs getting started, or even entrepreneurs that have just been going sideways. What's some action items you would give them to really be able to scale their businesses? Because it seems like a lot of the businesses that you work on scale, huge. And so maybe a few time-saving tips to give them.
So I'm going to do it in two ways, because I used a story about a year ago on a podcast, and it was literally a story that happened a week before this. And I watched on my social media someone did a reel that I did probably a year ago and reposted it. And so the story goes is I was in the hot tub with my 10-year-old at the time. Now she's 11. And she goes, Dad, when can I start my own business? First thing I said to her, and it sat there for a little bit, and I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, I don't know. And, because she's 10. But I said, what you need to get over is first, it's going to be a while, but a lot of people don't get in business because they have fear of failure, fear of rejection, all these different fears. And I have friends and family members that have said the what if thing, coulda, woulda, shoulda, for 30 years, but it's because they can't get over those fears. Fear of, I don't encourage anyone to quit their job before you have something, but do something part-time before you quit your full-time job.
Yeah.
But definitely the hard part is the rejection. Even my wife, she has a hard time with rejection. Even when we're inviting, let's say, 2 or 3 couples out to dinner, I'm the guy that's texting the other wives, like, hey, do you guys want to go out to dinner? I'll text the husbands or whoever there's always a go-to person who does the schedule for the relationship.
The alpha there.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And, but I'm that person because, I'm so used to getting rejected. I'm like a stone, like, oh, it's fine. Yeah, you got this. Oh, you're canceling last minute. That's okay. Whereas my wife, she doesn't like that. She doesn't like oh man, this is why I don't.
Same with mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the first piece. So that's something that's maybe trying to make that transition. Like, I really want to start a business. I watch all these podcasts, all these influencers, I read all these books, but I haven't made that step. So the next step is taking action.
Okay.
Right. And then the action piece is just go and get your feet wet. Find, like you're saying, how can you add value to somebody and be an apprentice or something in that regard for somebody, whatever the industry is. I think that's one of the key pieces. Like you said, is don't just pick their brain or let me take you out to lunch and give you a $20 meal to spend 2 hours to ask kind of those minimal questions sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I don't know about you, but I was on the other side of that. I was definitely the person still back in my 20s that I wanted to take people out to lunch. I didn't understand exactly what I was doing, but now that I kind of see the other side on what I should have done is kind of where can I add value to that person in a way that I'm bringing something to them without, spending their time on something. And then the piece on the scaling piece is I'm a big person that I read the book with Dan Sullivan and I want to say Darren Hardy. I know it's Hardy, but the who, not how. Mm-hmm. I think with scalability and getting into business now, I look at everything and it's because I've had awesome partners that have taught me different things over the last 3 or 4 years. And now I look at business differently of how can I not just sell this to one person, but if I'm selling it to 1,000 people that day, what do I need to do? I was even on a call on my way here that the company that we're possibly doing a partnership with was saying, hey, so what we do is we get them in and then we give them a call for 30 minutes. And we first said that's a bottleneck. We got to make it so, because if we have 1,000 sales in one day, there's no way we have 1,000 people to make those 30-minute call. Mm-hmm. How can we make it so we're selling it to everybody? And to me, it comes back to the who, not how. Find someone, because that might not be your expertise, but you might know someone that understands scalability or whatever it is. And I always try to say you're selling it to 1,000 people that day versus one person that day. Because all of us can do one-on-one sales, but people get burned out on that.
Yes.
A couple of years go by and you're like, man, I've made really good money, but if I don't work tomorrow, I don't sell tomorrow. I think, and I've been in real estate for a long time, realtors tell me that all the time. That's why a lot of times they start to get into the investing side, because as they say, if I'm listing properties, if I'm selling properties, and I always use the term break my legs, and then I'm in the hospital or in my bed for 6 weeks. If they can't show houses or whatever, they're relying on their customers. But that's why a lot of them say it hits them after a while because they get burnt out. And they're like, I should have maybe bought a house or something that's going to give me residual income. So if that happens, I still got money coming in. Mm-hmm. And that's, to me, that's the part of the scaling, because that way you're making mailbox money without waking up if you don't need to.
It gets to a point. It's interesting. I like to use computers or our fund, our hedge fund, Ugly Unicorn, as an example. It always seems like in the very beginning it's a grind. And it's a lot of hands-on sales.
Yeah.
I remember with our fund, Bridget and I okay, we got to raise our first $1 million. We want to get to $1 billion. Let's see what we can do. And squeezing a couple $100,000 out of people was hard. They're like, well, what have you done with this? And we're like, well, here's my experience. And so that's really what closed a lot of the initial clients. But then when there was some mathematics to back returns,
yeah.
Then after a while, the clients sell for you. They're just like, hey, this is what happened to me. If you're interested there. And then there's no selling really. It's just onboarding. And that seems like with computers and with real estate, it's worked that way for me, maybe for you too, because with computers, if we do it for Disney, then suddenly another company, Warner Brothers or something or whatever it is, will be like, hey, you worked on the Disney guys, it looked good, you do the same for us because we're doing something different. And then it just perpetuates. And so at first, I would say for the entrepreneurs is prepare to put in so much time that you're on the verge of having a nervous breakdown, or you do have one.
Yeah, there's we use the term the grind, right? So I think if you go into a business and just I got to scale this today, I think you have the wrong, the wrong path. I think you have to know it's going to grind, but then you kind of think how can I cut an hour out of my day with this business? How can I cut 2 hours a day? And it might take 6 months to understand what that is, but then you start kind of shaving off an hour a week, 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week on something that could be automated or a virtual assistant or however that shaving off is. But there's a grind, and for me, I've had, had success, a lot of success the last 5 years but I had a grind for 20 years. I've had a lot of failures, you know, and then I got to a point of like, okay, how can I minimize those failures and how would I learn from it, right? But there is going to be a grind. And then I think like looking at when I automate or scale a business, I know like, cause right now I'm taking on 2 or 3 new businesses and I'm probably working more in the last 6 months than I have in 3 years because I know there's going to be a grind. And so I'm always trying to think of like, how can I shave this off or shave that off? And then all of a sudden it's automated. It's like what you talked about with the Ugly Unicorn Fund. It was a grind at first, then it's almost like you can't keep up with it now.
Yeah,
because you have clients who are like, dude, talk to this guy, dude, do this. And you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm so busy, like, you know, with everyone that wants to come in.
Yeah,
you know,
it actually gets easier because
you can't stop it.
It gets a lot easier because you don't have to convince people. It's just your time again is the problem as a human being. You have certain team members that can handle certain things. There's certain things you have to handle. But then I actually think it helps close deals because people realize, well, this guy doesn't really care if I join or not, but he does care about me, but there's a line, so let's get going if we want to or not, you know. And that's ultimately with the business. It feels like with some of the projects you've worked on, it got to the point where your reputation and momentum built, and then people are like, hey, we should just do that, work for this guy, and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is cool, man. I wish we had more time.
It's been awesome.
Where's the best place for people to find you if they want to like see what you're working on because you're constantly doing cool things?
I would say, so I was never big in my Instagram until this last year. And
it's getting good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's at the Josh Z.
At the Josh Z.
At the Josh Z. Everyone knows me as Jay-Z or Ziggy, you know, and
we'll post this and there'll be links to
awesome.
stuff.
Yeah. So I would say that's the best place because there's links there with the self-employment tax credits.com and, you know, ERC stuff.
Okay, what's one thing, just give them the answers to the test. What's one thing that you have a problem with or need help with that you would appreciate the viewers that maybe they could offer some value to you? What's one thing you're working on? Business, personal, anything.
Kind of like when I talked about the abilities and inabilities. I think my inability has been social media, and I want to get out there more. I'm going to do my own podcast, like I was telling you before we started. I've shifted this last year or two to the same mentality of like you and Jeff Lamb. I also want to help and give back, you know. And to me, right now, it's based on time though too. You know, because you want to give back, but you don't want to kind of like, okay, my arms are open, everyone come this way, and you're like, oh wait, there's a lot of people coming my way. I need to kind of sift through this, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of going through that, but there's been a lot of people that have kind of given me kudos of like, dude, thanks, man. For what you did, and you didn't want anything out of it, like that made me think of you even higher. You know, so I do want to have that. So I would say that's kind of a 2-part. One, if there's anyone out there that can help me, you know, get the word out on my social media on stuff I'm doing, but also like if there's anything that I can help with my expertise, I definitely want to, you know, be open to that.
That's kind of funny because that goes down to how this podcast is set up and my social media is. There's no sponsors, so when you hear this, there's nobody who's paying us. We don't really need your money, but we do ask that you share this so that we can help other people.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing to help other people. That really juices me and you too, I know. It's just be able to help other people and pass this knowledge forward. We're at the age in our life now that like you got to start transferring data to the kids out there and help them scale their businesses. So if you enjoyed this, please share this, like this, comment, all that good stuff. And then also go visit Josh's Instagram page, follow it, share all his stuff too. And you'll see all that cool stuff he's working on. All right, bro. I'm excited to come on your podcast.
Yes,
Thank you for coming on my podcast.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week.